Alright, so let's go ahead and work on 18.8, problem 18.8 here. We're evaluating stock splits and stock dividends. Squash Delight has the following balance sheet, and I've just shown you at the top here just the capital accounts, because that's what we're going to be focusing on first and foremost. The firm's stock sells for $10 a share. We're going to have to keep that in mind. Show the effect on the capital accounts of a 2-for-1 stock split. Alright, so all we're doing is we're splitting stock here. A stock split just simply splits the stock and splits its par value as well. So really all that happens under a 2-for-1 stock split is now we have 100,000 shares outstanding at $1 par value. Okay, we just split the stock. Nothing happens to the accounts or the balances. Oops. Or the balances in those accounts. Alright, so that's the effect on the capital accounts of a 2-for-1 stock split. Basically nothing happens to the balance of those accounts, but the balance sheet does show a change in the number of shares outstanding and the par value of those shares. Alright, now we have a stock dividend. It says show the effect on the capital accounts of a 10% stock dividend. In other words, we're issuing 10% more shares in the form of a dividend. So what ends up happening is we have to keep in mind what price the stock is selling at. When we figure this out. So now what's going to end up happening is we'll have a total of 55,000 shares. Okay, 10% of 50,000 is 5,000. 55,000 shares. Still at $2 a par. $2 par. Nothing happened to our par value, and that means if we do the math on here, we have an additional $10,000. Now that $10,000 from an accounting standpoint gets transferred from our retained earnings account and moved into the common stock account. So now we have 110,000 in our common stock account, and we have only 490,000 at this point in our retained earnings account. Okay, so we just transferred 10,000, but there's another transfer that takes place too based on the stock price. Now you can see our common stock was at $2 par, so we transferred $2 of this stock price into our common stock. We have 5,000 shares outstanding, so we have to keep this in mind. 5,000 new shares. We've already transferred $2 of that value into our common stock account. Now we have an additional $8, okay, because the stock price is $10. We have an additional $8 that we need to transfer as well from our retained earnings account to our capital in excess of par account. That's an accounting transaction that takes place. So 5,000 shares times $8 is an additional $40,000 that needs to be transferred from our retained earnings account and put into our capital in excess of par account. So that would be 200 plus 40,000. And that has to come from our retained earnings account. So that leaves $450,000 in retained earnings. So let's just check and make sure that the totals are in agreement. You can see that the grand total equity accounts are all the same, but in this case nothing happened during the stock split, but in this case we transferred from retained earnings into capital in excess of par on common stock the value at its current stock price of those an additional 5,000 shares. So the next question is, based on the balance in retained earnings, which of the two dividend plans is more restrictive on future cash dividends? Well, the answer is because we cannot distribute any more cash than what's in retained earnings, our stock dividend would be more restrictive on future dividends than our stock split. You can see what happens here. We have $50,000 less that we'll be able to distribute in the future for dividends under the stock dividend plan than under the stock split plan.